I am a Catholic. My children don't live in Egypt, they live in France. They have been living abroad for years. If one day I am given the opportunity, the chance to sell my business, then I think that I will also leave. Because I am looking for more serenity and less anxiety in my life.
We associate Egypt with the sun, pyramids, and mosques. Meanwhile, the country has a rich and varied Christian past that stretches all the way back to the 1st century. Thus, the descendants of the pharaohs, the precursors of Egyptian Christians, the Copts, lived here well before the Muslims, who invaded these lands in the 7th century. Copt originates from the Arab word kipt, denoting an inhabitant of Egypt. The church survived throughout the centuries up to the present, suffering various periods of persecution by Islam. Presently, Muslims make up the majority of the population.
The Egyptian church differs somewhat from churches outside Egypt. Our church is never afraid. We lived and grew up with martyrs. We learned their stories. We learned about their lives. We know how and when each martyr fits into Egypt's history. Many unusual signs accompany Egypt's Christianity. One of these is a cross tattooed on their hands. It is a cross that adults tattoo themselves, but children are also tattooed, so that they never forget their roots. Never forget where their deep tradition lies, where the source of their strength is, in difficult times, in times of persecution.
Very nice.
There are presently 2 Coptic churches in Egypt, an Orthodox Coptic church and a Catholic Coptic church, who jointly number about 10% of the population. It is here that the largest Christian population in the Middle East lives. Thus, Christianity in Egypt, not alike in most other Muslim countries, has a sociological footprint. The Coptic Catholic Church, unlike the Orthodox Coptic Church, is in full communion with Rome. However, the rite of its liturgy is almost the same as the Coptic Orthodox. It numbers around 210,000 faithful, served by 175 priests and 40 monks. Since President Hosni Mubarak's overthrow in 2011, Christians have been through very traumatic times. Attacked by the Muslim Brotherhood and Salafites, their churches have been destroyed, many of their faithful murdered. Christian families have been driven away, their houses and shops burned to the ground, many deprived of any opportunity to lead normal lives.
There have always been attacks against Christians in Egypt. For many years, perhaps they haven't been spoken about so much in the media in the Western world.
The Christians' dramatic situation seemingly improved when Abdel Fatah al-Sisi came to power in 2014. The president received Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant bishops. His government, together with the church, is preparing a new law regulating church building, which is one of the key issues for the Egyptian church. In the past, it was up to the president himself to decide if the construction could begin or not, which effectively paralyzed all church building projects. Now that decision would be taken at a lower level. The apparent peace, however, has been violated by several bomb attacks performed by terrorists from the so-called Islamic State. This jihadist group seized large territory in Syria and Iraq, then part of the Egyptian Sinai. Its brutality, mass killings, abductions, and beheadings became known worldwide. In 2016 and 2017, the jihadists targeted worshippers and numerous religious sites. Hundreds of Christians have been killed. One of the Islamic leaders in Egypt has warned Muslims to stay away from Christian gatherings, as well as government, military, and police facilities, suggesting that the militant group will keep up attacks on what he referred to as legitimate targets. The insecurity in the country provoked an even bigger mass exodus of Christians. The Catholic Church faces a challenge: how to give its faithful a reason to stay.
We are called upon to meet someone's need every day, needs that we must respond to. The young and families leave Menya and go either to Cairo or Sharm el-Sheikh or abroad. Many are leaving. We must therefore educate the educators. And this is our great challenge. We need to teach how to communicate the value of life, how to work, how to engage in the country's affairs, how to be creative. We have to develop these assets.
In order to develop these assets and help its faithful, the Catholic Church fills a deficiency in the government's assistance by providing a variety of social services. More than 100 Coptic Catholic parishes run primary and secondary schools, a number of dispensaries and orphanages. It helps widows, abandoned women, prisoners, handicapped and poor. All its institutions are open to those in need, regardless of their faith. Egypt has nearly 8 million children under 5. The prevailing poverty, the high number of childbirth fatalities, divorces that often leave children abandoned, all lead to an ever-growing number of Egyptian orphans and street children. Franciscan fathers run nursing homes, clinics, schools with 10,000 pupils and 400 teachers, and 3 orphanages. These enable them to respond to the overwhelming needs of the poorest of the poor, mainly children.
The children come from different regions, from Alexandria, Asyut, from Cairo, from Aswan. All are Christian, Catholic. Their situation at home is very difficult because they are from very poor families. Some have neither mother nor father, and often they have nowhere to stay. We therefore take them in from primary school up to the point when they complete their secondary education, receive a certificate, and can start work.